Alrighty, welcome back to Shut Up and Ball. I am Aaron Chow, accompanied by Mr. John Harris, as always. And we are back to make our Week 18 picks against the spread. Our final picks for the regular season of the 2022-2023 NFL season. So we'll get into that in a moment. And the standings, before we do, just want to do a quick little plug in regards to our YouTube. If you're watching there, please like, comment, subscribe, of course, please. So we are getting closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. And then also, if you're listening on any of our podcast mediums, the free ones that we put out, Spotify, Apple, etc., please feel free to rate and review there as well. And you can always throw comments and such our way via our Instagram at ShutUpandBallPod, and our Twitter and TikTok are at ShutUpandBall. But anyhow, enough of that. Let's get into this week. So standings wise, last week I went 8-5. John went 5-8. So that's a 3-game lead for me going into the final week of the regular season. We will be making picks in the playoffs, but obviously playoffs, much less games, so less opportunities to make up ground in the playoffs. So this is a pretty good week to do so, though. We already made our picks, a lot of differences. So this week could very well be the balance, not to be the balance, to be the decider for who ultimately wins this. But anyhow, like I mentioned, I got three games up on John last week. Win last week tied, so I'm 3 games up on him going in this week. Anyhow, let's dive right into the Saturday games. No Thursday night game. Obviously, it's the last week of the season. 2 games on Saturday. First one is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They are favored by 8.5 going to Las Vegas, John. Basically, do you feel that the Chiefs can cover? Because I think we both feel that they'll probably win against Jarrett Stidham and the Raiders.
Yeah, so just before I give any of my picks, I do want to get a bit of a disclaimer as well. I am significantly behind in the locks, and so part of my pick strategy this week is a little bit, I'm trying to do a lot of differences because that actually opens up more avenues for me to get games locked and potentially, get some games back on you. Because if we had a bunch of agreements, if you had chosen that game, I am eliminated from that one. So some of these games that I was a little iffy on, I did just kind of go with the opposite choice of you. And this was one of those games. Chiefs, Raiders, 8.5 feels pretty big. Honestly, the Chiefs has kind of burned me every time I've chosen them on these spreads that are bigger than touchdowns, against the Broncos twice, against the Texans. But like I said, I got to take some risks here. I think that Kansas City could do it. I think that Jarrett Stidham, he had a good game last week, but I don't know. Can he do it 2 times in a row? Maybe. It's a defense that's not nearly as good as the Niners is, so it's possible. But can he keep up with Patrick Mahomes? I'm not sure. So I don't know. Regardless, taking the Chiefs. Although they burned me in the past, I'm hoping they can pull it out this time.
All right, well, I'm going with the Raiders. It seems like they're trying to end the season on a good note. We saw their offense pretty much almost move the ball, have a lot of big chunk plays against the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Chiefs in recent weeks, their offense has been just kind of meh. I think we all expect them to be better. But remember last week, they're still getting some of their guys back, and Kadarius Toney, getting them more reps and such, and more involved in Sky Moore. So I feel like this would be another week of the Chiefs kind of meandering on offense, do enough to win, but not enough to completely blow out the Raiders. So that's... And also Josh Jacobs, too. Wouldn't be surprised if they get one more little squeeze out of Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas, because he will be a free agent. So maybe they just want to help him, send him on his way so he can get a good fat contract. Or regardless, I feel like he also may want to put up a big day here as well. So, 8.5, a little too rich for my blood, especially at Las Vegas. But we will have to see. So first difference on the board. Now we go to the other game on Saturday, and this one is between the Jacksonville Jaguars at Jacksonville. They are favored by 6.5, hosting the Tennessee Titans, John. If I remember correctly, this is for the division. So obviously playoff winner, you win and you get in. So who do you feel will win this game? And I guess, who do you think will cover the spread?
I'm going with Jacksonville. Last time they played, it was a blowout. I'm riding Trevor Lawrence. I'm riding Travis Etienne. I'm riding that team. I think they They're young. They're on a hot streak. They got a lot of motivation. Tennessee feels like the opposite, kind of older team, a lot of injuries, and just kind of moseying on down this stretch. And we know that if you can outscore Derrick Henry, then that's enough to get the W. And I don't know. I just think with Josh Dobbs under center, I just don't trust their offense enough, especially considering that they've kind of struggled all year in terms of production from receivers, all that stuff. I just don't really trust that offense enough to keep up with a red-hot Trevor Lawrence in that offense. So I'm taking the Jags.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm going with Tennessee because, I mean, Jacksonville blew them out last time. And especially with it all on the line, I know it is Josh Dobbs out there, but Derrick Henry should be playing this game too. And he has given Jacksonville issues, to say the least, in the past. And I feel like in the first meeting, game got away quickly from Tennessee, obviously from their style. Where to start, Trevor Lawrence was just amazing, and Tennessee was down multiple scores, and then all of a sudden, well, we can't lean on Derrick Henry because we have to throw our way back in, and we all know that's not a strength of theirs, especially this year. I just feel like they'll have a better plan of attack to slow down the passing offense from the Jaguars. And I think the Jags will ultimately win. I think they're the better, more talented team as of right now. But as we all know, Tennessee very well coached, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I just think that they'll make this a little bit ugly. But I think Jacksonville wins, especially it being at home and, being so close to getting to the playoffs, especially a year removed from the whole Urban Meyer debacle, go from worst to in the playoffs. That's a pretty big thing for them. So, yeah, I think, Jacksonville's going to seize the moment and win, but not enough to cover. So, threading the needle a bit here for both of my opening picks, while John's going with the favorite to cover. So we will see. And those are not the only, there are bigger spreads than those later on. So we'll get to those later. But those are the Saturday games. Now we go to the rest of the games that are all on Sunday. No Monday because once again, wild card weekend's the following weekend. So trying to make it, I guess, even for everybody. Anyhow, starting with the Atlanta Falcons, they will not be in the playoffs. This feels like it's a purely for pride game because they are favored by 4.5 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm assuming maybe home field, maybe Vegas. I'm not sure if they've already announced that they're going to maybe bench some of their guys, Tampa. Because, like I said, I don't think they can't go up in the seeding. They're stuck at 4 in the NFC at 8-8. So anyway, John, it's a weird game to pick because we don't know of that. Where are you leaning?
I'm just going Tampa. Like you said, weird game to choose. Honestly, I don't think either team really has any motivation because Tampa has clinched the division. They can't improve their seeding. They're the 4th seed locked in. And Atlanta, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some motivation to lose for a better draft pick. That's kind of what I'm grasping at here. So I'm just kind of taking the Bucks, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, it's really tough, and I'm just taking the Bucks to cover. I just feel like even with their B team, still a well coached team in the Bucks, and Atlanta, yeah, their offense really doesn't give you much to say, okay, I think they can just blow out the Bucks B team. I kind of got to see it to believe it too. And although Desmond Ridder's been solid the past 2 weeks, hasn't really been amazing. As expected, he was like I felt he was a raw guy coming out, so I don't expect him to pull a Matt Flynn and have like an amazing final week going into the offseason or something of the sort. So, and even just a preface, I know this was a long time ago, different quarterback, different situation. But I remember when Mahomes made his first start in a meaningless week 17 game for Kansas City, even he struggled and had two interceptions and didn't have an amazing day. They won, but it wasn't an amazing statistical performance. So, and obviously this isn't Ritter's first start, but still his first month starting basically. Anyway, first agreement for John and myself being the game that we are both completely unsure of, as I'm sure Vegas is. As like I said, Atlanta somehow favored, probably because Tom Brady will be chilling on the bench. But anyway, now we go to Buffalo, where the Bills, they will be at home. They are favored by 7.5, hosting the New England Patriots. John, do you think Buffalo can cover, or do you think New England keeps it close here?
I think Buffalo's ultimately going to win this game, especially since there's still some locked-in motivation for trying to get the 1 seed. I believe it's actually now confirmed that the Bengals-Bills game will not be replayed. And so, but there's some added extra stuff for the AFC side of the playoffs they've changed the rules. The owners met, I think, yesterday and decided on all this. Anyway, but the Bills still have motivation here, and so I'm going to take the Bill. Actually, I was about to say I'm taking the Bills, but I'm not. I'm taking the Patriots because 7.5 is a little bit big, and the Patriots are also fighting for a playoff spot. And I don't know if I think the Bills win because I do worry about the Patriots offense. But I don't know. This just feels like one of those games that I'm going to see Bill Belichick's hand all over it because I think for them, it's a win and get in scenario. I believe they hold the tiebreakers over everybody else. They do. The Dolphins and the Steelers are the only teams. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Bill Belichick's really going to have his team go out there and execute these small things, and they'll just kind of lose out on talent. But like I said, Patriots will cover. That's what I'm picking. The last sentence, I didn't know if that was kind of clear.
It was. I'm going with Buffalo. I just think with the emotions, obviously we haven't heard some good news coming from Damar Hamlin's front. I just feel like things like that, I feel like will motivate this team just to go out there and, basically win, put on performance, take care of their business, and it being at home to at Buffalo. I just feel like all that energy and emotions going to help them ride, and just maybe they'll have a few extra wild plays that they break off. We saw them kind of do this in New England too last year around this time. Obviously he was in the playoffs, but we saw Josh Allen dice them up. I know Bill has really good against younger quarterbacks, but especially Josh Allen, who's, like I said, already seemed to have learned some of the tricks of Bill Belichick, and kind of like I think a little bit too is just more talent on the Buffalo side and it's just hard to contain a quarterback like Josh Allen. And last time Bill Belichick threw every defense under the sun, didn't matter, and especially with New England's offense, I just can't trust them to cover. Basically, we've seen their offense have good moments and then just really bad performances that were helped by their defense or Marcus Jones calling on him to make a play when he's drafted to be a defensive back. Not that he's not an explosive player, but shows the lack of explosive talent outside of really Tyquan Thornton. He's still getting his legs under him as well. So yeah, I think Buffalo handles their business basically, eliminates New England, and at least gives them the loss here. It may not be. New England can still lose and get in if Pittsburgh and Miami lose as well. But yeah, I think they handle business and put the onus on the Chiefs to win. Although it is scary because I think if the Chiefs do win Saturday, the day before, I guess they still might want to play for seeding, but who knows? If they get up, they may put their starters in or rest their starters, put the bench in, and then New England pulls it close and covers. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to go with the Bills for now. And hopefully they come through for me. But we will see, as John is going to New England to at least keep it close. But now we go to the Vikings. Speaking of jostling for position, had a golden opportunity last week to put themselves in the driver's seat for the 1 seed. That failed. They lost to my Packers. So now they are favored by 5.5 going to Chicago. For Chicago, no Justin Fields. It will be Nathan Peterman starting. So John, who are you rolling with here between the Vikings and the Bears?
Although the Vikings do worry me when it comes to don't really have a whole lot of motivation. They technically could still secure the 1 seed, but they just need a lot of help. They don't hold tiebreakers over any of the other teams in contention. So I don't feel like they're that worried about seeding. And, the point differential stuff and the 1-score games, all that worries me. But on the other side, like you said, Nathan Peterman's playing quarterback, and this isn't necessarily specifically about him, but in general, I don't know. Once again, I don't think that the NFL really has a tanking problem, but when you got 1 week left and you could get the number 1 overall pick, let's just, you're also a rookie year head coach, so that you can lose this game and it doesn't matter. You just got hired. They're not going to fire you, and you can get a better draft pick. So I just feel like Chicago's not really going to come out here and put up that big of a fight. So I'm taking the Vikings.
I told David Culley that because remember he got fired after 1 year.
Well, that's Houston. Houston is complete, utter organizational dysfunction.
I'm just messing with you. But Yeah, that's why I'm also going with Minnesota. I mean, Nathan Peterman starting, that's really says it all. I mean, their offense has really been Justin Fields being the main playmaker, literally with his legs, and you take him out of the equation. Don't even know if they'll have Chase Claypool out there, and really haven't seen him much out there. It seems like they're just saving him for the offseason until next season. Like, yeah, and then Minnesota, I expect them to kind of want to bounce back, even if, they're just kind of jostling for third place or second place. I just feel like they're going to want to at least have some momentum going into the playoffs after that tough loss last week. They're probably going to want to say, hey, let's put on a really good performance this week, get some momentum, and build on that next week. So, yeah, I think Minnesota takes care of business. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not so much more time. Chicago's Chicago at this point, and we'll see if they get the 1 seed, although it may not impact who they should get because, a lot of people are probably already theorizing that Houston's going to get quarterback out 1. Obviously, we'll see when that all lands out, but regardless, you probably still want to be at 1, obviously, if you're Chicago, just to hold the keys more in case people want to trade up. But anyhow, now we go to the AFC North for which could have been division title, playing for division title. Looks like it will not be that way. And it is the Bengals. They are favored by 9.5 at Cincinnati. They are hosting the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to double check now. It's not looking like Lamar Jackson's going to play this week again, right? So it looks like it'll be another Tyler Huntley week for the Ravens. So, John, where are you leaning for this one?
I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Just historically, every time these two teams have matched up, it just feels like it's pretty favored towards the Bengals. I can't remember. Did the Ravens win when they played earlier this year?
I'll check.
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, they did. 19-17. That was in week 5. And it came down to the wire. The Ravens scored 6 points in the fourth quarter. I think they took the lead with like 2 field goals from
Justin Tucker. Probably.
Justin Tucker.
Obviously, Justin Tucker.
But yeah, regardless, I don't know. I just got a feeling that without Lamar, I just don't know how much I believe in this Ravens offense to compete with Joe Burrow in that offense. I mean, even in that last time they played, Lamar, he had 174 passing yards. He had a passing touchdown. He didn't have an interception, but he was also their leading rusher, 12 carries for 58 yards. I don't know. Also, like Mark Andrews was healthy back then. He's been kind of dealing with injuries, so I'm not sure how effective he's going to be. Devin Duvernay, I think, is still hurt, so I don't know if he's going to be playing. Like some of the and he was their second leading receiver that week. So a lot of the key guys in that last game, I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be playing, good to go, whatever it is. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. Yeah, I know it kind of sucks for the Ravens because they did get a little bit screwed over in the fact that game didn't get played because they had a chance to win the division. But because of the new AFC playoff rules, there's like a chance they can at least get home field advantage or something like that. So regardless, I don't know. I'm going with the Bengals.
All right. Well, I am going with the Ravens. I think the Bengals win this one, but 9.5 is a lot. And I just feel like Baltimore, their defense has been improved. Although we have seen Cincinnati's offense improve from since the last time they played as well. But it is concerning no Leo Collins on that right side. I know he wasn't doing amazing, but it's probably better than what they had as his backup, obviously. So I just worry that Baltimore may have a few key sacks or at least, cause a key turnover. They kind of gone the Giants route where they're just going to play defense, solid defense, be sound, not let up the big play. And then on offense, they're just going to be ball control, eat clock. And even if they don't score that position, well, at least they took up 5-6 minutes for those 20 yards, and then they punt and lean on their defense again. So, I think Baltimore keeps it close. But I'm with you. I think Cincinnati will win in that aspect, though. So another one down, and this next one should be pretty cut and dry. No playoff implications here. It is the Indianapolis Colts at Indianapolis. They are favored by 2.5, hosting the Houston Texans. Like you mentioned, Texans. If they do win and Chicago loses, I believe Chicago will get the number 1 overall pick. But if Houston loses, doesn't matter. They lock it in. Anyhow, John, how do you feel this one turns out?
Well, this one was a weird one because the last time they played was really early in the year, and I think the line was a little bit bigger. I think it was week 2. Maybe it was week 1. Actually, I might have been week 1, and then I think week 2 was when they played the Jaguars the first
It
time.
was week 1. Yeah, they tied at 20 all.
Yeah, and the line was a lot bigger because the expectations for the Colts were very different. Now the line's a lot tighter. When that week 1 matchup happened, I almost took the Texans because it was just one of those games where it just feels like we all expect it to go a certain way based on our expectations, but in week 1 things are a little crazy. I don't know. I don't feel confident about either of these teams, and I say this all the time, but when I don't feel confident about both teams, I just take the underdog because with the Colts, I think Sam Ellinger's back at quarterback. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and with the Texans, they suck. So I'm hoping that it's a close game, and the Texans can at least cover.
Yeah, I'm going with Indy. Newsflash, I am not making this a lock. Like, this is just one of those that, I don't know. I just went with Indy. I feel like they have a little more talent skill-wise, in Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell. We've seen Jelani Woods kind of have some moments, but granted, like you said, Sam Ellinger will be starting, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of the passing game either, so that's scary. So I'm just gonna go with the home team, but yeah, it was very tempting to take Houston there. But nonetheless, I'm going with Indianapolis. John going with Houston. We'll see what happens. Who knows? With our luck, that's going to be the deciding force for us. But anyhow, let's go over to Miami, where the Dolphins will also not be starting one of their starters in Tua, or it looks like Teddy Bridgewater won't be starting either, as Skylar Thompson will get the start for the Miami Dolphins, as they are at home, favored by 3.5, hosting the New York Jets, who also will not be starting Mike White due to injury. It looks like it's going to be Joe Flacco, and I think I saw the Adam Schefter Instagram post. It will be the post said Joe Flacco will start, but Zach Wilson will be the backup. So that will be interesting. I'm just wondering. It's be interesting if Robert Saleh did say we haven't seen the last of Zach Wilson. Anyhow, John, are you believing in Joe Flacco and the Jets to maybe spoil or at least keep this one close?
Well, this one's really interesting because the last time these two teams played, I believe it was Skylar Thompson as well. It was supposed to be Bridgewater, and then the first play of the game, they ruled him out because of concussion, and he didn't end up having one. But this was obviously right after the Tua thing. Everything was kind of crazy. They were being super uber cautious, and the Jets blew them out in that game. Now, obviously, that was a different time where the Jets were really on a hot streak back then and really balling out. Now they're eliminated from the playoffs, but because it's a divisional opponent, I do think they're going to be motivated to play spoiler, like, haha, screw you guys, you didn't make the playoffs. So yeah, I'm going to take the Jets here. I don't know how much I trust Skylar Thompson in that offense. They weren't able to do much last time they played. I think that Sauce Gardner is going to be able to do enough to take away one of those receivers, because I'm not worried the speed is as killer when you got a backup quarterback in there. Not even just a backup, like a third string, who's a rookie as well. So yeah, I'm going to take the Jets here. Also, Joe Flacco, I don't know what the betting line change might have been when they announced Joe Flacco versus Mike White, but I can't imagine it was that much, because honestly, I don't think there's that big of a difference. I don't know. The first 3 games that Joe Flacco played, he was like the top 3 in like passing yards, passing touchdowns, passing attempts, all that stuff. And so I don't know. I think that he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's where we defer. Especially Jets O-line, I think that's gone lost in this mix of everyone, bashing on Zach Wilson. Is Jets O-line has fallen off, especially since then, due to injury and such. And last time they also had Breece Hall, and it was a close game going into that fourth quarter. It was a 2-point game, but then, the dams burst, and Miami just had a couple of horrible turnovers, and the Jets had a couple of explosive plays. And I just think this time, especially with it all on the line, I expect Miami defense to maybe be a little bit more. Obviously, they don't have to prepare for Breece Hall, so that helps. But I'm hoping they're a little bit less over aggressive. They tend to be too aggressive, leaving too many opportunities, like 1-on-1. And that's always scary, because Joe Flacco, I know he's at the end of his career, but he probably still has a solid arm. And we know they have playmakers in Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson there in New York. So that could be scary. But nonetheless, I just think Miami will take care of business, maybe run the ball a little bit more than they did the first time, because they had success the first time. It's just, once again, I think the game just kind of got away from them very quickly in that fourth quarter, so they couldn't stay consistent with it. But yeah, especially at home too. And this Jets season's been kind of weird. It's another game where I don't have a great feel for. But I'm going to go with Miami. I just think the desperation of the playoffs and such. I think they're the more talented overall roster, even though, yes, they are on their third string quarterback. I just have a little more confidence in them at this point. So I am going with the Miami Dolphins. John is going with the Jets. So we'll see what happens there, as Miami does need a win. And even if they do win, they need a couple things to happen for them to get in. And if they lose, I think if New England, if they lose, it doesn't matter, right? Or I guess I'm trying to think.
What are you talking about?
So if Miami goes 8-9 and New England loses, I guess New England holds a tiebreaker, so it doesn't matter. If they lose,
they held over
matter.
the Dolphins. I think if the Steelers won, though, then the Steelers would jump over them, right?
Jump over them, yes, yeah. But if New England and Miami lose, it doesn't matter because New England still gets in over tiebreakers, I think.
Over Miami.
Over Miami, yes.
But not over Pittsburgh. So New England, if they do lose, they need both the other teams to lose as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're all 8-8. So it goes down to those weird tiebreakers. Anyhow, let's go over to another game with no playoff implications, but obviously a divisional matchup. It is the New Orleans Saints at New Orleans, favored by 3.5, hosting the Carolina Panthers. Panthers had a chance last week to have a chance for the division. Actually, had a chance for this game to decide the division potentially. That didn't happen, obviously. So, John, in a quote-unquote meaningless game, who are you rolling with here?
I'm taking Carolina. I just simply put think they're the better team. I don't know. Sam Darnold's been playing really well, which has kind of gone under the radar because they don't have like a great record or anything. But he wasn't there for most of the season, so who knows? Maybe he just got fresh legs, and some of these other teams are just tired. I don't know. But he's playing well. I think the run game can get going. The Saints defense has had like moments where they've been good, but even last week against Philadelphia, where they only held them 10 points. In terms of efficiency, Philadelphia was very efficient running the ball. They just didn't run it many times. Like Miles Sanders, I think, averaged 5 yards a carry, but he only had like 10 carries or so. So I don't know. I think the run game get going, and when Carolina runs the ball effectively, they tend to do well. So I'm going to go with Carolina here.
Yeah, I too am going with Carolina. Many of the reasons you mentioned, and I just don't fully trust the Saints offense yet. It just feels, you've been burned by the Saints many times too. You don't really know what the heck you can get out of the Saints. So yeah, give me Carolina and the points. I feel like at least it will be a close game. If it's a blowout, so be it. That's be the one time the Saints blew someone out this year. But yeah, so we both go Carolina there. Now we go to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are at home. They are favored by 2.5, hosting the Cleveland Browns. Like we mentioned, they need Miami and New England to both lose, and they have to win to get in. So, John, do you think Pittsburgh can at least, even if Miami and New England win, maybe they can at least get Mike Tomlin to over 500? Do you think that at least that streak continues?
I'm just not betting against Mike Tomlin. Just not going to do it. I'm taking the Steelers here because I'm just not betting against Mike Tomlin in a scenario where obviously they do need help, but a win is the first step. Which, do you know what time this game actually is?
I will check right now.
Still a noon game, right?
Yes, it's the last noon game we have, actually.
Okay, so it will be played at the same time as the Miami game,
Dolphins and Patriots,
and the Patriots game. So all games will be going at the same time, and so they can get some score updates here throughout the thing. And if they see that maybe at halftime Miami's losing, New England's losing, that could even motivate them even more to like really secure this thing. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I am not betting against Mike Tomlin. And also, even if they see that the other teams are actually in huge wins and they're not going to make the playoffs, I think they still have that added motivation of getting Mike Tomlin the winning record.
Yeah, and I think what I want to add too, I just feel like Mike Tomlin will even tell him, like, hey, don't even look at the score. We're here to win this game. Like, don't even focus on that. Let's just focus on us. When the typical Mike Tomlin bravado things. So yeah, I'm going with Pittsburgh. I think also too, schematically, like I've mentioned, you can run on Cleveland. Excuse me. Sorry. You can't run on Cleveland. I'm disappointed that Washington wasn't as patient with it last week, and especially with Cleveland too, dealing with the Jadeveon Clowney apparently already is, wanting out since he's apparently not being utilized properly or something. It just seems like they got a few things going on that they have to iron out, personnel wise. So, and in Pittsburgh, they've been rolling recently. They've been playing ugly, but that's what they love to do. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh covers and wins, and at least gets Mike Tomlin above 500. Now, who knows if they'll make the playoffs, but I think they handle things on their end at least, and so does John. So now we go to the afternoon games. Going to start with the Denver Broncos. They are at Mile High, favored by 3.5, hosting the LA Chargers. By the looks of it, I'm very curious. Maybe they're theorizing that LA will bench guys, I guess. Very interesting why Denver's favored. Anyhow, while I look into that, who are you rolling with here, John, between these two?
I guess maybe it's about benching players, because I don't know if the Chargers can change their seating. I'm going to look up these standings.
In regards to their seeding, they are the 5th seed at 10-6, so they're on the top wild card spot. They're clinched. They're tied with Baltimore at 10-6. That's what the interesting thing is. But maybe they just don't care if they have to play the 2 or 3 seed. I don't know.
I feel like they might care though, because they would play the 4th seed, which would be Jacksonville or Tennessee. Yeah. Maybe they don't. But then, like, if you lose and you drop down a spot, you would play Cincinnati / Buffalo. No, I think it'd be Cincinnati.
Either Cincinnati or Buffalo, I guess. Right.
Cincinnati's a game behind, 12-3 versus 11-4.
Yeah.
And I don't know tiebreakers if Buffalo was to lose.
And it's tough because they were going to play, but obviously they didn't. So that would have been a tiebreaker in itself. So who knows? Maybe that's why they're just like, we don't know what's going to happen. We'll just take this as a bye week since we're already in. I don't know, but like, I double checked. I had to like triple check this spread because I was like, are you sure that Denver is favored? Checked multiple different sites, and they all had Denver as the favorite. So Vegas knows something we don't.
Yeah. So regardless, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I just think they're the better team. Although Denver doesn't really have much to lose for in terms of the draft picks and all that kind of stuff, I just think the Chargers are better. And the last time they played, the Chargers did win, and it was pretty close. But that was also without some pretty key figures for the Chargers, so like Keenan Allen. So regardless, I don't know. I'm taking the Chargers.
All right, well, I know it's not great analysis, but I'm more trusting Vegas here. I'm going with Denver. I just feel like, especially at home, they're probably going to want to end the season on a good note after everything that's gone wrong in terms of, it didn't work out with Nathaniel Hackett. Russell Wilson has not been the same. All the memes about he's finally has more passing touchdowns than he does, bathrooms in his house, all that stuff. I just feel like this will be the week for them to exercise those demons a bit and, and end the year on a good note. And for the Chargers, once again, maybe Vegas knows or someone knows that they may be playing it safe with their guys. Maybe play first half or something and then sit them. Who knows? But still, Denver's defense is still pretty good as we've seen. And I know the Chargers' run offense got going a bit last week. I just don't foresee it happening again, especially if they are limiting Austin Eckler's touches, because they'll obviously need him for the playoffs. And so yeah, I just not really sure what to expect out of this game. So I'm going with the home team in Denver. With that, technically he's kind of playing with house money, although yeah, I don't know what the Chargers are playing for either. So it's a weird scenario. But anyhow, no disagreement for us. I believe that Denver will cover. For John, he gets points, so it's definitely a scary one for me, because I wish we know more as why they're favored. But anyway. Now we get to the big spreads. This first one is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are at Philly. They're going to be favored by 14.5, hosting the New York Giants. Obviously, Giants are in, and so are the Eagles. But Eagles, still trying to lock up that 1 seed. I believe I have to double check this if there's any update on Jalen Hurts. But regardless, John, who are you rolling with here?
From what I've heard, I haven't heard anything super recently, but like over the last couple of days, Jalen Hurts has been in and out of practice, and my gut says he doesn't play, but he could, because there's also the possibility that they don't want to have him have not played football for a month, because say he doesn't play in this game, then that means he's missed 3 straight games. hypothetically they win the game, they get the bye week, then he's got another week where he's not playing, and then you got to go straight into a divisional round matchup that could be against quite a few good teams. So they could play him, but I don't know. My gut just tells me they're going to play it safe on the injury front and rest him. Regardless, I'm taking Philadelphia. This is just one of those risky plays that I'm going for, specifically in potentially the lock department, because although the spread is really big, they blew them out last time. They are at home. They got the motivation to win. The Giants actually have zero motivation to do anything because they cannot change their seeding whatsoever. They are locked in at 6 because Dallas is quite a few games ahead, also has beaten them twice, so they would hold tiebreakers even if there was any. And if Dallas was to move out, it'd be Philadelphia in that spot. So the Giants can't catch up to either of those teams. And if they lose, they can't drop below to the 7th seed. So they're locked in at 6. And to my knowledge, I don't think the Giants are going to rest players. I heard Brian Daboll say that he was going to look at everything and evaluate it and do what's best for the team. But just the way that he kind of talked about it in some of the interviews and the times he was asked, it seemed like he didn't intend to rest players. I could be wrong on that. That's just my impression based on what he was, talking like in interviews. So maybe they'll have their starters out there. But if anything happens, I think, if Philly gets up big time, if anybody crucial maybe gets tweaked and hurt a little bit, I think they're going to, play it safe. And I don't know. I'm going with the Eagles here, taking a risk.
All right. I can certainly see that. I am scared just because I know they're not like resting guys, but already don't have Leonard Williams and Azeez Ojulari, 2 key guys in the front 7 for the Giants. So I just feel like, especially after last couple of weeks, really, especially if Jalen Hurts does play, Philly's gonna be more patient with the traditional run game, which has been a bugaboo for the Giants recently, is stopping the run. And then I still don't know what to expect out of the Giants offense. Nonetheless, especially if Jalen Hurts plays, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of rustiness. And obviously he hasn't played in a couple weeks. Who knows how healthy that shoulder is and how it might affect him. And even if it is Gardner Minshew, he's been solid, but we've seen they make a couple critical mistakes, Philly, every time. It seems like that he's been in the past 2 weeks. I think Philly does win and handle their business, but I think 14.5 is just too much for me, and especially for the Giants. This is a team that we've seen hang around. They're very good at hanging around games, so I think the Giants will do so, definitely within 14 points. And I wouldn't be shocked if they are getting blown out 31-10, and there's a garbage fourth quarter drive by the Giants that they score a touchdown, and boom, they covered. So. Yes, I am going with the Giants to keep it within 14. John is hoping for Philly to eclipse that spread. But anyhow, now we go over to the San Francisco, where the 49ers are at home. They will be playing their guys, it seems like, as well, as they are favored by 14.5, hosting the Arizona Cardinals. If I remember correctly, for the Cardinals, it's going to be David Blau at starter for them. So, John, with David Blau at the helm, do you think San Fran can cover, or you think Arizona will keep it close, or at least within the 14 points?
I'm going to go with the 49ers. Another massive spread that I'm taking a risk on. The David Blau thing worries me. The motivation for Cliff Kingsbury worries me. He has made comments about the start of next year, which maybe means the reports of him quitting are not true. But there have been the reports of him just resigning because he didn't feel supported by ownership. I don't know. I also just don't really trust Cliff. I know that last week the Niners defense didn't have the greatest of performances, but I don't know. I got a feeling that Nick Bosa might want to cap off a Defensive Player of the Year award and really lock it in. The Niners are still fighting for the first seed. They are actually the first team up if the Eagles do lose. They hold a tiebreaker over both Dallas and Minnesota. So if Philly does lose and they win, they would get the first seed. The games are happening at the same time, obviously, so it's not like they can sit there and know. But you handle your business, you ensure you got a really high seed, and you could get the first one if the Eagles falter. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Niners here. This big spread worries me, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, big spread worries me. That's why I'm going with Arizona. I just feel like the Niners may take their foot off the gas. I feel like they're going to get up to an early lead, and then, Arizona just put some garbage points up. I know it's not great to bank on, but and also Arizona they still do some creative stuff on defense, and I wouldn't be shocked if, JJ Watt really does leave it all out there in the field. Is going to be his last game, so, I'll be interested to see how he performs. And although Cliff feels like he may be coming back next season, that's not entirely in his control. So I feel like he also may have a few tricks in the bag, at least in terms of the offense, and maybe take a few things away from what the Raiders did to kind of expose some of their zones in San Francisco and, create some plays off that. I don't think it'll be enough for them to win, obviously, but maybe enough for them to cover. And once again, like I said, maybe Cliff Kingsbury is more motivated to do some creative things like that, just to secure his job, in regards to the front office's decision. So we'll see, though. John's going with another favorite with the big spread. I'm going with the underdog. So we'll see, because it's last week, so no one really knows. And, San Francisco, like I said, could just pack it in second half, or they could just totally dominate for the whole game. Anyhow, now we go to the last afternoon game, and that is at Seattle. They are favored by 5.5 against the LA Rams. Who would have thunk that Seattle will be the one in playoff contention and the Rams will be eliminated? If you had told anyone that before the season, they would have thought you were crazy. Or if you would have said, hey, one of these teams is playoff contender, the other ones will not be, everyone would have said the Rams outside of Seattle. But anyhow, John, do you think Seattle can punch their ticket with a win here, or do you think the Rams can play spoiler?
I'm going to go with Seattle. The Rams have actually been doing surprisingly well, but I think that Seattle's going to want it more. They're the more talented team as of right now due to all those injuries. Pete Carroll's been there, done that many times, very experienced coach. So I think that he knows the importance of these kind of moments, and his Seattle team will respond, take advantage of it. Also, unfortunately for them, the Green Bay Detroit game is the Sunday night game, so they're not going to be able to understand, because if Green Bay wins, Seattle's eliminated, and so they're not going to know that. And so it's, hey, we got to handle our business, and whatever happens, but we have to play before the Green Bay Detroit game. So we'll see. But ultimately, I think Seattle's going to handle their business.
All right, sorry. So not last game. There's one more game in the afternoon, and that's your game, of course. Sorry, I didn't mean to minimize your game. I have to pick my game live. I forgot to put that spread up. Anyhow, John, your Dallas Cowboys are up next. They are favored by 7.5 going to Washington. Washington will be starting Sam Howell instead of Carson Wentz or Taylor Heineke.
Did you make your pick on the Seattle Rams game, by the way?
Sorry. If I didn't, I'm going with Seattle. Mainly hit the point. I mean, the Rams, they're kind of playing for pride at this point. And I just feel like with Seattle, they've been believing this whole year. Pete Carroll said from the beginning, we're not really rebuilding. And I just feel like, kind of like with Mike Tomlin, he's one of the great motivators, and players do tend to play well for him. And, Geno Smith, this would be, I think, a perfect stamp on his redemption tour here to make it to the playoffs too. Not only, almost get in, to get in the playoffs. I'm sure he wants, to actually get in, and not just, for lack of a better phrase, a participation. Oh, he almost got it. No, he wants to get in and get them there, prove his doubters wrong, and, definitely throw it in, I guess, Russell Wilson's face, maybe a little bit there too. So yeah, I'm going with Seattle. Maybe I'm invoking a pod jinx because I do need Seattle to lose, I think, for tiebreaker purposes as well. I'm not entirely sure because obviously right now they're the 7th seed. So I'm assuming so because Green Bay's 8-8 also. So anyway, I
believe Green Bay holds it over Seattle from what my understanding was.
Okay.
So if Green Bay wins, that's for sure, they're in, to my knowledge.
Okay.
If Detroit wins, then I think maybe Seattle holds it over Detroit, because I'm pretty sure that's actually true, because what I heard on the radio today was if you want the Detroit Green Bay game to be super meaningful, win and get in for both teams, you need Seattle to lose. And if Seattle had won the game, then it's just, does Green Bay win the game? So Green Bay holds tiebreaker over both, actually, and Seattle holds it over Detroit.
All right, so sorry. that's the scenario.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyhow, no, you're fine. It's just a lot. It's just like it's tough. At the end of the year, it's just it's a lot mouthful of what can happen, what you need to happen. Like I'm a Packer fan, and I thought we need Seattle to lose. So okay, if Seattle can win, go ahead and win, Seattle.
Yeah, luckily you're actually in the best spot.
I was about to say maybe I should have invoked the pod curse, but maybe I'm saving that for later. Anyway, regardless, speaking of pod curse, now we go to your Dallas Cowboys. Now we can. They, like I said, they are favored by 7.5 going to Washington. So do you think they can cover, John? Or do you think maybe Sam Howell and the Commanders can, provide a little spark?
I'm going with Washington. It's actually not really about the Commanders and more about Dallas. Dallas, their path to win the division is requiring Philly to lose. Philly's going to be playing at the exact same time. And I worry that if they see that Philly is blowing out the Giants, they're just going to pull the starters at some point just to get that little bit of extra rest. And then that could allow Washington to, make some plays because I think they would pull basically anybody of, starting quality. So that could get like Washington some garbage time points. I don't know, could happen at halftime. It just really depends on how the Philly game goes. And because I'm picking Philly to win by a lot, this kind of coincides with that. Also, Dallas, if they want the 1 seed, they need the Niners to lose too. So regardless of whether Philly loses or not, they can't just secure the 1 seed in the bye. So the most likely scenario is that they're going to be playing in the wild card round. And so they're just kind of in a tough spot that, even if the Philly loses and you actually do end up winning the division, you get the 2nd seed, then you still might want to be rested going into that situation, especially since if that was the scenario and you had the 2nd seed, then you're playing the Giants, who might have been resting players. We're not sure yet. So I don't know. Just there's a lot of scenarios in which I could see Dallas pulling starters, and although I still think with their backups they could win, or backups for half the game they could win. I don't know. I'm taking Washington because that part worries me quite a bit.
All right, well, that doesn't worry too much, and that's why I'm going with Dallas. Who knows what we'll see out of Sam Howell? He's obviously solid coming out of the draft, and I felt like he was somewhat pro ready, but still don't know what to expect when they get thrown in there week 18 against a fast flying crazy Dallas defense. Even if it is for you only seen the first stringers for a little bit. I just feel like, especially after losing last week, and who knows if Ron Rivera knew, I just feel like the win's gonna definitely be taken out of the sails out of Washington. And even if Dallas plays their backups in the second half, I just don't feel like it'll matter too much. As Washington's one of those teams where they're in a weird spot where not gonna make the playoffs, have a middling draft pick. I'm not sure their cap situation, but there's not a lot to say they can build on immediately be a contender next year. They are likely, I don't mean to project, but they're likely to be a middling team again. And obviously with their ownership issues, and who knows if Ron Rivera may be on the hot seat, they don't even know if they have a quarterback. So there's still a lot of major question marks that won't get answered this game, I feel, even if Sam Howell plays well. So yeah, I'm just going to bet against Washington, for a lack of a better phrase, and go with Dallas. Regardless, even the scenarios you mentioned are very likely all happen, but at this point, I'm just I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going with Dallas. John going with Washington. Now we head to the final game of the week, and that is my Packer game, as we mentioned earlier. Green Bay at Lambeau, favored by 3.5, hosting the Detroit Lions. Green Bay controls their own fate. They win, they're in. Obviously, we mentioned earlier, Lions, they need Seattle to lose, and they have to win to get in. Regardless, it's scary because Dan Campbell, who knows what he's going to pull out this game. John, do you think Green Bay can win and cover?
I think they can. I've kind of been riding this Green Bay train ever since that bye week, and I had mentioned I think it's possible they could win out back then, and they haven't proved me wrong yet. So I am taking your Green Bay Packers. I think they're going to want to get revenge for the last time they played Detroit. Also, as the old saying goes, it's honestly, in terms of a rematch, sometimes it's just better to be the team that lost the first time, because The second time you go around, you know what you need to do to improve. And if you won, then it's a little harder to understand what you need to do to win again based on the way the other team could adjust. So regardless, I'm taking the Packers. I think Matt LaFleur is the better coach. I think they got the better quarterback. I think they have the better defense. Just a lot to like for Green Bay for me, and they're really hot.
Yeah. So I'm technically taking Detroit for the spread, but let me be real here. I'm trying to invoke the pod jinx. I will say Jared Goff, once again, we'll see with the weather. Weather could be a factor, especially with Jared Goff. It's been a history in his past. I know he's done well this year, so I could easily eat crow there. It does scare me because Packer run defense is always just a scary thing. I know they did well against the Vikings, but the Lions have a better run blocking on line, and obviously have two backs they have to worry about, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. And I think last time too, obviously the Packers hadn't gotten Christian Watson involved, and Rodgers was definitely struggling at that point. I think at that point I already said we were cooked, and then that loss just I thought further dug our grave. I as many remember, I had already pronounced us dead at that point. So, but yeah, realistically here, I think Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this has happened before, and I think with Rodgers, kind of like I said with Mike Tomlin and Pete Carroll, and there's the other quarterbacks like Brady and just some of the elite guys. They just, when you go into these games, I feel like there's the added boost when you have them on your side, and then on your other side, it can be scary. And I am scared, like I mentioned, like I prefaced, of Dan Campbell doing some weird, crazy stuff. And Green Bay, we've had a terrible history of not being prepared for that. Even just normal things like an onside kick, against Seattle or such like that. But for once, I'm not completely scared of my special teams, at least return-wise. We've seen Keyshawn Nixon. He's been really good. Like, not just because he returned a kick last week, but even like yards-wise, he's been putting us in favorable positions there. The defense is playing with confidence. So I wouldn't be shocked if they have a really good performance here. So although I'm going Detroit, I think Green Bay will win, and I think they'll cover. But I'm picking Detroit for the jinx. So anyway, yes, even though I didn't pick Green Bay last week, but I picked Green Bay like the weeks before, and it worked out for me. So I'm just riding the wave right now. So anyhow, those are our picks against the spread. We have 1, 2, 5, 8. We have 11 differences. And we had I have a 3-game league going in. So this is going to be a wild way to end the year. But now we head to our locks, which John needs a wild week to win/tie. It is an even week too, which is unfortunate. So I get to go first. In the game, I am going to lock. I'm going to lock Minnesota. It just feels easy at this point. They still have something to play for. Chicago doesn't. This is the easiest one for me and most obvious. So I'm going with Minnesota to cover the 5.5 points over Chicago. John, what are you rolling with here?
I will be locking the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe in Mike Tomlin. He is that guy. I think he's going to get it done.
You have to outline the Minnesota box for me because I can't. I'm failing. Anyway, all right. Let me see here. No one else I really feel great about. I'm still scared. Something about Seattle scares me. So I'm going to go with one more. I don't feel comfortable in Carolina. All right, I'm going to take the emotional hedge here. I'm going to go with Buffalo. Buffalo's going to be my other lock, and I'm telling you now, that's all I'm going to stop.
All right, well, I got to go big or go home this week, and my strategy was obviously to start with the games that we share and agree on, to ensure that I would get my picks on the disagreements. So how many locks are you scored right now? You got like 7?
7. I had 3 1 week and then 2 weeks of 2.
And you've just picked 2. I'm going to take Tampa. So I got Pittsburgh and Tampa so far. We're going to go Jacksonville. The old Jaguars. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. They're winning that division, baby.
Hey, I believe in them too. I just don't believe that they'll cover.
Yeah. I'm locking your Packers. They came through for me last week. Didn't matter because my other picks messed up, but they did cover for me. So I'm going with the Packers. I Ooh. Oof.
All that.
I'm taking Cincinnati. I don't believe in Tyler Huntley. I'm taking the Jets. I do not believe in Skylar Thompson. What are we at now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need a couple more. Oh, man. Whew. I am going to lock the 49ers and the massive spread, and that might be the one that kills me, but I'm going to do it. I will lock the Seattle Seahawks. And you know what? We already got this far, so we might as well just test our luck here. I'm going to lock the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that puts me at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that would tie us if we both got ours this week. So I'm going to go with 9. And that is it. That is all I will do.
Alrighty. Well, so once again, John has 9. I'm not going to say the spread for everyone. She has Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Jets, Steelers, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, and Green Bay Packers. And it's with spreads too, by the way. So, Jacksonville's covered by 6.5 too, just for those at home. So, all right, you got a hill to climb, buddy. And I got Buffalo 7.5. They have to win by more than 7, obviously. And then Minnesota plus basically 5 or more, or has to win by 6 or more for me. So, that will be all for John and myself in terms of the picks and locks for Week 18. Anything else you want to add before we head on out here?
It's going to be it. It's going to be a fun week, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming playoffs.
Yeah, and by the way, since I would say NBA, NFL playoffs are coming, we will probably start talking basketball here soon. Since we'll only be talking about like 6 next week, 6 games, and then it dwindles down very much from there. So we'll get back into basketball. I know you're at the Celtics Mavs game the other night, and your Celtics won, so that was a big dub for you. And
my first ever NBA game, and wasn't super exciting, but my team won, so that's great.
It looks like you had good seats, so it looks like you had good perspective. I'm glad you don't have the curse I have. Just before we sign off, where like every time I've gone to a live sporting event, the team I'm rooting for has lost. Went to the Spurs game. I mean, I know it's Spurs, but went to Spurs game. We got destroyed by the Pelicans, Zion, and they were missing threes. And then went to the Packer game a couple of years ago at Lambeau, and that's when that's when the Lions were bad, the Matt Patricia Lions, and they beat us. Right. I think that's when they pulled that fake field goal, and Pat McAfee went crazy. So not great luck on my end, but I'm glad you have better luck. Hopefully, everyone, you have good luck for regards to your team, unless your team is the Lions, because once again, I'm going up against the Lions. So sorry. Hope you don't have good luck there, Lions fans.
Or the Eagles and Niners. If I have to get my locks wrong, then I want you both to lose. So Cowboys get the first seed, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So anyhow, we will see you on the flip side. Next time we see everyone, we will be talking. Well, we'll be reviewing this week, but we'll officially be in the playoffs for the NFL. We'll know who's in, who's out. And that'll be fun. So enjoy your final regular season Saturday and Sunday. I'm sure we will, or I may not. I may be terribly sad at the end. But regardless, we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy your night, everyone.